Yeah. Yeah. Try to hide there all the time. They try to make him come down and teach. Great story of, it's really unique. Born realizing, what do I do with it? I want to understand it, you know? I still have questions here to finish, but I'll do that last thing about the helmet coming off and then we'll start. So, oh, they have to come back on now, right? I'm live, but no one's there. Gotta wait for him for a second. This is where Stav excels in modern sword play and stick play, like versus Jodo. It's freer. You know, Japanese can get too rigid. Same thing with catch wrestling. Yeah. It's not that the practice of it is bad or the teaching of it is bad. It's that the Japanese culture of doing it just the way I did it, don't ever do anything else, means that they never learned how to respond. Like what made Kazushi Sakuraba good enough to beat every Gracie and scare Hickson Gracie so bad he never wanted to go fight him? Why? He wasn't normal Japanese. He was training catch wrestling from a pretty young age, right? By two British guys. So they taught him how to be alive in it, how to respond, not just come from the playbook, you know? But actually what's interesting is one of those teachers, one of the two coaches that went there to teach the catch wrestling, found the Japanese mind unable to deal with that kind of teaching. Not my coach, Carl, the other one. So he developed all the Shuto flows. Did you ever see lock flows? Like one position leads to the next position, leads to like 30, 40 of those, and they have sets of those. And the Japanese loved it. But if it didn't come up in the flow, we're done. So they'd still get beaten by Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners 9 times out of 10 because Brazilians are freer, more capoeira, like let it happen. You know, their jiu-jitsu became more freer. Are we online? Yeah. Hello, folks. I think, you've got 7 people connected. There were 9 at the end of the power failure. Okay, so let's keep going. So and to end that last bit of a story I was trying to say, the beauty of it is that the samurai on the battlefield does not expect to live through that. In fact, has trained for the death over and over again in his lifetime or in her lifetime. But the act of putting the incense on top of the head and putting the helmet on that day as an offering puts them in, expresses that they're in the right space already to go to die. Like that they're already saying, look, this is my essence practice, live or die. It's very beautiful. So, okay, enough on that. Yes, the arts can be used, and I think it's great. Like the painter that we use for our school, Dinesh, I love that he really paints from the natural state. You know, I've been in the room when he's painting, our paintings. I used to like to watch him produce some of our paintings, and I used to like the vibe that was created in the room, and the bhava that he would get into was incredible. He'd take on the bhava of the deity or whatever. It was really quite amazing. Okay. When this is out on the YouTube, is it going to be linked to the one before? Okay. Yeah. You were talking about those students who have art as their nadi. Have what? Art as their nadi, yeah. Correct. And those of us who don't, who are left-brainers, can also. Okay. So if you're not a person who has art as your main nadi, could pursuing arts in some form that you're attracted to help you in surrender and releasing karmic patterns, accessing essence, basically? And the answer is find out. Find out, you know, maybe not. I think it's useful. And back in 93, I ran a training in Australia where we took 18 people and put them in one house for 6 months. That alone is a training. But I guess we were way ahead of time with Big Brother. But one of the things I asked each one of them to do was to pursue an art. So I asked each one of them to pursue an art form, a musical instrument. And then I also asked each one of them to pursue a foreign language. And what this did to their brains was amazing. It really helped in the training, actually, whether they were born to do it or not. I don't think anybody in there was a naughty artist, but it helped, yeah. Okay, next question. A little bit long, not too long. Let me read it to you and I'll give a short answer. During the last month, I intensified my practice of Atma Shakti in combination with pranayama and Tattva Shuddhi. Very good combination right there. I received a very intense dream. A message that keeps coming up is healing of an aspect of my heart. In the dream, I saw the aspects of my heart which keeps me away from unconditional love. I saw layers of fear in my heart, which continues to keep pulling me back. It was a very powerful, confronting mirror. I feel to let go, to forgive and ask for forgiveness, to accept impermanence, which gives me fear. Let things go and embrace all as part of what I created. It feels like dying and getting born all over and over, letting go and building up a matrix again, because I'm still walking my film, the movie that she's creating, she's saying in her mind, the ego structure. I believe that I experience and understand the message very deeply, but I'm looking for the way to get free of my own matrix, right? Our own karmic matrix. Any advice, this would be deeply appreciated. Thank you. Yes, here's the advice. Follow the path. It's great that you had this revelation. Fantastic. All too often, students that are new to the path look for problem, antidote, problem, antidote. This is what they think the path is. The first level, problem, antidote. Wow, get rid of those karmas. Next, problem, I discovered these karmas. Antidote them. Boom. Next. Okay, Guruji, what's the next practice now? Oh, a Rama mantra? Okay, Rama. Boom, gone. Okay, oh, look what's coming up now. What's now, Guruji? Oh, Lakshmi mantra? Okay, Lakshmi. Oh, boom, gone. Next. This is not the path. This is not the real path of Tantric Yoga. It absolutely is not. My dear sister, Kavita Chinayan, just wrote, or maybe like this year, wrote a really wonderful essay, or it's maybe part of her book, can't remember, that she posted, and I saw it and I gave it huge likes, because it just tickled me pink because it's so awesome. She wrote in about this exact situation. There are no silver bullets. There's the path. We don't go and attack one karma. Maybe it sounds like that when I talk about finding our karmas and stuff, but it's not what we do. When we follow the path and body, speech, mind are all brought in and we're following the progressive system, everything changes. You don't change something out of context. You can't attack one little part of yourself and like take it out with surgical laser and remove it like a medical doctor. It doesn't work like that. Shamanism isn't what we're practicing. That's shamanism. We're practicing tantric yoga. And what is that? It's a holistic way to elevate and reveal the full potentiality of a human being. In that path of expressing our full potentiality, your karmas necessarily fall away simply because they can't exist, because you're not that person anymore. You're operating in a different way. And that takes the full understanding of how to work with body, speech, and mind and which tools in the path are best for you. But a tool-centered approach or a issue solution-centered approach using the tools is incorrect. It's wrong view. It won't lead to realization. And I ask you to abandon that immediately, that view. Anybody who has that view, stay on the path in general. Watch the karmas fall away. Okay, this is it. It's not just one thing to do for this or for that. And if you get a chance to read Kavita's essay, go for it. It's really nice. I don't know where to find it though. Okay, next question. Namaskar. Can you please point out a couple of common factors between 84 Mahasiddhas? What is the importance of steady wisdom, Siti Pragya, to the Mahasiddhas? Is it the means or the end itself? Okay. Can you please point out a couple of common features? Yeah, all the 84 Mahasiddhas approached one of their greatest limitations and, I should say, approached the guru, got transmission, realized their essential nature, took up the path, followed the path. And when they did that, what used to be, it's kind of a classic for this teaching of Mahasiddhas, what used to be the ground they stumbled upon becomes, as it said in Tantra, the ground they rose up upon, that they stood up on, and became the base. So whatever they had as a real karmic base was completely transformed instead of being expunged, like the renunciate path. That was the great way of the Mahasiddhas. And because of that, it helped them to retain all the great energy that they had in their being and retain a holistic view of themselves that we use a lot in Trika psychology, that there is no pathology once you purify your motive. Once you purify your motive and once you're intent on changing and growing, there is no pathology. It's all grist for the mill. It's all fuel in the motor of enlightenment and takes you to your eventual, resting place in your own essence. So This is the most important common factor between them. Of course, the usual thing, esotericizing of external practices, of interiorizing of rituals, of external rituals, living a close connection to nature, going beyond all vows and restrictions and so forth of religious or society, blah, 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 blah. Being in a passionate relationship with their consort, male or female. If they're female, they had a male. If they're male, they had a female, and so forth. So what is the importance of steady wisdom? Stiti means like steady state. Prajna, wisdom. What is the role of steady wisdom to the Mahasiddhas? There's no role per se. They are an expression. When someone reaches stage 10 out of 12, they are, this is very hard to describe. They don't give wisdom. They don't give wisdom teachings. They don't write things that are wisdomful. They may, but the difference is they are wisdom. In other words, they're heading into the fifth body. We heard about the Trikaya, the three bodies, but there's two more bodies. And one of them is the body of wisdom. There's 5 wisdom bodies. And these bodies are very real to the Mahasiddha. So they are a wisdom body. Imagine they are, using your terminology here, a sthiti prajnakaya. That's their experience of themselves. So it's not a role that wisdom plays. It's just naturally who they are, which is why the crazy wisdom expression of the Mahasiddhas was never questioned, because they were operating at a level where wisdom and compassion were already realized as at their essence. The person was so far beyond individual gain at the expense of others that no matter what they were doing that was crazy, that could seem damaging to somebody else, was seen as a teaching, taken as a transmission, and gave liberation. Because their students would see it that way, you see. So anyway, what is the importance of steady? So the steady wisdom is there because it's in their being. It's what they've realized. Is it the means or the end itself? It was the means when it was progressively experienced. Then it became the end. Yeah. Okay, let me go back to the top and see what I missed here. So all these came through? Came with it? Looks like they came through it, right? Yes. Who? Okay. Okay, Midi. To which spiritual virtues I can sublime violent, murderous fantasies according to Tantra? I manage them very well with awareness. Shambhavi Mudra, thank you for your teaching. Okay, so what is the virtue that's concealed in a violent, murderous fantasy? Actually, it comes back to the root of two things. It's clarity, intensity, and passion. So like dynamism. So those two can get skewed to the point where the clarity can get so strong that it becomes something that becomes a dualistic force. We grasp onto it and we feel separate from others to the point we could perform actually harming of them, where we could murder them even. Maybe this is coming out in your dreams or just your thoughts. You said fantasies. So it could be dreams or just thoughts that run through your mind during the day. And that often has its root in separating out from other beings and not having a healthy dose of compassion to understand that anybody in the world we can relate to, should be able to relate to, because we've all had moments when we weren't acting very wisely or very intelligently, and we have to have compassion for others. So basically it comes back to the veiling of intensity, clarity, and pure dynamism. So you can look for that underneath it, but you're going to have to see what's in the way of getting it to transform, which will usually be some kind of judgment, some kind of superiority, judging others as stupid, or, it could be just a pure anger reaction. But this is, again, why I think Trick Psychology cohort is very good, because these things are hard to get at, right? And we don't really want to antidote per se too much. But you could try, if you've learned the 6 realms yoga, you could try to do the Hell Realm yoga series for about 15, 20 minutes every morning before you meditate, and a little more compassion mantra. That might be good. The Machamulya Salidu mantra is good for that. Yeah. Okay. Try some of that stuff. I've studied over the last months the lineage tree. It just jumped. I've studied over the last months the lineage tree to know more about TMY, and have not found any info about Satchidananda's Tantracharya Sri Sukmangiri. Could you talk to us a bit more on her? Okay. Is this from you? Okay. So Sukhman Giri, so Satyananda grew up in a small town called Almora in the foothills of India, right on the border of Nepal. It's a real hotbed. The 100 square mile area is a real hotbed for tantric yoga. Nainital's nearby, all these great places. Neem Karoli Baba would always go up there. Many, many great tantrics came out of there. A lot of Tibetan and Indian kind of interface, Tibetan Buddhist, Nepali Buddhist, tantric, Shaiva tantric interface in that area. A lot of caves, a lot of inhospitable area too. Lots of tigers and elephants. So it wasn't safe to be in the forest, really. So Satyananda's father owned 2,000 acres and had about 200 employees. He was quite well off. And they were like one of the big shot families around town. So Satyananda from a young age would walk into town with a rifle under one arm, and the grocery list for his mom under the other arm to go get supplies and then walk back or would take a rickshaw back, whatever. And he was already into trying to understand powers of the mind and meditation and stuff. And he was studying this kind of thing. And then one day he walked into the town square, and I think he was like going to buy milk. So he had milk. No, I forget. He's just going to buy supplies, I think. And he looked across the square and he saw a short statured woman who was very plump, very round, and very dark black skin, as well as very dirty and disheveled looking. And he had a judgment. He had a judgment in his mind and his heart about her. Oh, look at that dirty black Southerner, that kind of prejudice and racist kind of thing. And she was a great siddha, unbeknownst to him. And she saw him and read his mind and heard what he said. So she captured his mind, as he describes it. He said he didn't want to walk to her, but all of a sudden he found his legs moving towards her. And he was walking. He was screaming in his mind, stop, 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 legs, stop moving. Don't go to her. And he couldn't speak. He was paralyzed in his mouth and he had to walk over. And she brought him right over to herself. She picked up a bucket. She handed him the bucket and said, go get this filled up with whatever it was, milk or meat. I can't remember. And through mental control, she sent him over to the shop, got it filled up, paid for it, and brought back. And then she released the spell on him when he got there. And he was like, what the hell did you just do to me? And he saw like a serious attainment in this woman. And he said, what is that? So they had a discussion about Tantra. And he already, of course, grew up Indian from a family where his dad was Arya Samaj and his mom was a Bhakti. So he knew all about Tantra and Veda and all that kind of stuff. And he was an avid reader and a very intelligent person, obviously. So he then had a long conversation with her, a series of conversations, and he was convinced that she was highly realized and that she was part of the Kaula Tantra branch of Tantra. That's directly descended from Matsyendranath, our root guru, iconic root guru. So he said, well, would you, be my teacher and come back to our land and live on my father's land? We have many caves. Would you come and live in one of those caves and I'll take care of all your needs and teach me? So he said, sure. On one deal, you have to bring me a bucket of raw meat and a bottle of whiskey or brandy every day. That's my payment. Okay. So he set her up in this cave and he went to come and learn. And he came through the first day to learn and he had his rifle and she screamed out from this butte where she was sitting at this cave mouth down to him, you take that rifle back, never come here with a rifle again, screamed at him. And it was unusual because it was unusual for anybody to go into that jungle, that forest, basically without a rifle, because it was a pretty dangerous place. Jaguars, tigers, leopards, tigers, elephants, lots of things could kill you up there. Bear, they had a lot of stuff. So wolves. Anyway, that was part of the deal because she was ahimsa. You don't harm anybody. I don't want to see that gun and you got to get rid of guns. And he was really scared. He said he was really shocked and scared, but she probably gave him some kind of protective power over him. So he was able to come and train with her for like 9 months. He had her in there for like 9 months and he learned all kinds of levels of Kaula Tantra. Every day he went to train with her. He had his dad and mom's permission to put her up there. And dad and mom's permission to train with her and went up and put her up in that cave and basically learned the whole Kaula Tantra system at that time. Some deity yogas, of course, mantra initiation, Kaula practices, siddhis, blah, blah, blah. All this started happening for him and made him want to reject the world and basically go deeper into spirituality, reject worldly attainment for spiritual attainment. That was the thing. And at the end of their time together, he said to her, "Are you my guru? I want to take you out." No, he said, "I want to take you as my guru. Would you give me full initiation?" Think about this. She didn't even initiate him as her student, as a Sadguru. And she said, "No." He said, "Why?" And she said, "Your guru's coming. I'm not your guru. Your guru's coming. So our time is done. I'm going now." And she left. And then he, some years later, found Shivananda as his guru. Even after meeting people like Baba Nityananda and others, he found the karma was with Swami Shivananda. So all we know of her is that, some snippets of how she was able to control people's minds, befriend wild animals, was a master of Kala Tantra and taught incredible Kala Tantra to him and so on. And got him really on his way. That's all we really know. That's all I know. He might have told more stories to other students. Before Jens?
Yeah. These are from the last chat.
But this is Jens. Wait, where?
This one first.
Okay. When will be the end of Kali Yuga according to Veda and Tantric astrology? You'd have to ask a Vedic person about that, because in Tantra, actually, it's never mentioned that we're in Kali Yuga. The real Tantras don't say anything about this time cycle stuff, the ancient Tantras from Kashmir. So it's not really a concern. And I don't really know, because I wasn't taught anything about this Kali Yuga stuff. It's real big in the Yogananda teachings. I don't see a real pragmatic use of it. Just deal with how you are here and now. It's not listed in the ancient tantras. I don't think they cared. I don't think it's really important at all. So don't worry about it. Just do the best you can with what you got and make believe every single moment is the last breath you're going to have. That's how you need to practice. Don't worry about yugas. What's next?
Yes.
On this one? That's not here?
That's different.
Okay. Oh, here we got a big one. Holy smokes. I have some questions about integration practice. In summary, I think I'm seeking confirmation that I'm practicing correctly, and also your advice about how to combine source bindu practice, breathing, with centering integration, and or whether or not to do so at all. With centering integration. No, just do this. If you mean the exercise of centering, when you do that exercise, just do that. And when you're integrating with regular life, just do the centering way of doing it, or do source bindu breathing way of doing it. Am I trying to practice the source bindu breathing cycles during integration? I am trying to, and seem to have combined that with an informal, non-transmitted understanding of Tonglen, trying to breathe in recognition of various states of being in the mandala. For example, breathing down, blessing power. Well, this is not something I put in the outer teachings. So somehow I picked this up from the inner, and I don't really want to put that out. As I understand the mandala visualization from foundations that seem to generalize the various states of beings in the mandala, beings in samsara, beings trying to end samsara with practice, and then liberated and enlightened beings or entities of grace. I've been trying to imagine breathing in and out of everyone's nadis or bindus throughout the day, then trying to cultivate virtues in relation to those various states in the mandala, like gratitude, humility, honesty, while breathing down, compassion, breathing out, equanimity, breathing in, non-attachment, breathing up, recalibrate. Okay. Right away, just that I'm getting so vata deranged reading the question, Jens, I got to tell you, you need to take a big chill pill. Okay. We have the saying here, ad lib sparingly. Follow the directions and ad lib sparingly. I don't know if your English seems pretty good, so you probably know what I mean. It means just do the practice the way I gave it to you for now. Don't try to mix it and make it do all kinds of different things and combine the breathing too much with Tonglen. If you're doing Tonglen, just do Tonglen. If you're doing the Bindu practice, source Bindu breathing, just do the Bindu breathing. Keep it really simple for now. You know what I mean? Breathing in the suffering of the 6 realms. That's Tonglen anyway. And what else we have here? Cultivate virtues in relation to those various states in the mandala. You're always trying to cultivate the virtues. That's fine. Is that a correct format? Yeah. Take out the combination complexity that you gave it, and then it's a really, just do them as they are. You're doing well. Just don't overcomplicate it. Pretty sure I'm trying not to. And here you just said, I'm pretty sure I'm trying not to overcomplicate. Well, it is overcomplicated, so try not to more. Okay, just do it as it's instructed. And don't strain. That's good. Like you said, you're not trying to strain. Even though I cannot usually hold all that, often have to simplify, pick and choose during integration as to be functional in body, speech, and mind. Yeah, do that. Simplify and focus. Pick body, speech, or mind and just go that way, okay? Yeah. And you're trying to be aware of the Trikaya. Don't try to hold too much in your awareness. This is going to block the flow of presence energy. Don't try to hold too much. Keep it really simple for now. Give it time. Relax. Relax a lot. Relax a lot. Okay. You sense that you could simplify in various ways. So I'm going to skip that because yes, you could simplify it all. Just do the way I instructed it. That's really important not to change instructions right now. I sense it was seated practice, centering, integration, fit, kind of. Okay, it's the same. You're running through the same question over and over again, so I'm skipping over it now. More ways to integrate and push things together, and I want you to keep them separate. Okay. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay. Hope that helps, Jens. You'll be here anyway, and you'll see how it is to just focus and how much more relaxed it is when you're doing the practice here during Kundalini Yoga. And Elisa, I noticed it's difficult to maintain the openness I experience during practice, and that as I focus on my daily routine, my body begins to take a particular shape of tension. How can I work with this tension, notice it, and release it? I understand this is fundamentally an integration practice question, and I do use several practices throughout my day, but I notice it has become very loud. How do I release the tension that I have to release? You have to release it. How to release the tension that I notice building up all day? You have to release it. Giving you another tool to release it is like adding another layer you don't need. Take a deep breath, jump up and down, laugh a little bit, do whatever you got to do. But you got to just release it, right? That's the yogi advice, Yogi to Yogi. I use several practices during the day, but I notice it has become very loud. It seems like a survival strategy of the body-mind to maintain control. Don't think it too much. Just release it. You don't need to think about it. Swamiji used to say, stop thinking about all your practice so much. Just do it and surrender into it. That's the way to go. Jens, that's good advice for you too, Jens. Is there a way to work directly with this tendency toward control so I can stay at the edge of openness? Yeah, stop it. So go online and look up Bob Newhart again. It looks like you need another transmission of Bob Newhart, Stop It. Go to YouTube, go look up Stop It. Okay. Back to Jens's or no? But it goes for a few weeks here. Okay, number three. Where'd it go? I lost it. Darn. Whew. Question 4, question 3. Okay. I think I'm trying to deal with possible adrenal exhaustion combined with potential need for a simultaneous insulin reset, given my scores on self-assessment sheets. Trying to follow body journey as closely as possible. I'm wondering how to reconcile these two tasks, adrenal recovery and insulin reset. Recover your adrenals through rest and good sleep, both. Rest during the day whenever possible and sleep as best you can. Get good sleep and don't overcomplicate your mind. You're probably burning up a lot of extra energy. Your tejas is probably disturbed, which is really bad for your ojas. And that's not what you want to do. You don't want to burn that out. So to get your adrenal function back, rest a lot, eating very nutritious, nourishing meals. Don't be vegetarian or fruitarian or raw-arian or any of that kind of stuff, okay? For the insulin reset, you can slowly dial back your carbs, go to more natural carbs. Don't go full keto. Just relax. First, get that adrenal recovery. Insulin reset doesn't really mean you have to destroy your adrenals, but you have to rest a lot while you're doing the insulin reset, okay? You can eat enough. You can eat enough during an insulin reset. You can maintain full feeling in your stomach, okay? Don't worry about 16/8 intermittent fasting right now. Just get your adrenal recovery that you need. And I found in your adrenal recovery, it is pretty important to trickle in your carbohydrates during the day. You don't need to have a lot, but you need to trickle them in all day long. And then rest a lot, okay? When you feel pretty much recovered, then you can go for stronger types of reset. Question 4, is it correct method to try to synchronize, as in Hatha Yoga, the winds of mind function with the winds of gross being, breathing in general? No, stop, Jens. Stop getting your mind involved in so much stuff. This is how you mess up the internal winds. Everybody, take a lesson on this question. When you get too involved in what's happening naturally in your body, it's trouble. Jens, all of our practices, right, what they do is they take what's actually happening naturally and put our conscious awareness into a congruity, a harmony with what's actually happening so that we can come into our present experience of it and emphasize that experience. You're not trying to create completely new energetic pathways, completely new energetic experiences and so forth. That's meddling with nature, and that'll cause a lot of health and mental problems in the future. So don't do that, okay? Sometimes you notice a pressurized heat being created in the head center when trying to think before taking. Yes, you're going to get a lot of symptoms that aren't good. So stop doing all that, okay? View clarification. Is the Nirmanakaya only each apparently individual body of light, Jivatma Shakti, or is it also the entire infinite mandala of impermanent manifestation? No, your Nirmanakaya is your own Nirmanakaya, but it's a potentiality shared by all. The same way your own nature is your own nature, but it's a potentiality shared by all. The base is shared by all, but your experience of it is your own. Same with Nirmanakaya. When you're a Nirmanakaya Buddha, you're a Nirmanakaya Buddha. That's it. You. Okay. I understand from the prelims that Sambhogakaya is infinite potency of energy, yet also remember from foundations that Sambhogakaya refers to certain enlightened beings like Shambhunatha. Yeah. Sambhogakaya is a level of experience of the pure, spontaneous manifestation of awareness as energy. That the self-realization experience, which is an energetic awareness phenomena, is not something that needs to occur, but is a steady state. Instead of an event, it's the being's experience. It's, in fact, their incarnation. So that's what a Sambhogakaya is level-wise, and that's what a Sambhogakaya being is. And all of us have that Sambhogakaya potential within us, and we're all having that potential to have that realization as our steady state. Right? Okay. Hopefully that's understandable. Like Shambhunatha represents that steady state of always realized. The reflexive nature of always in a state of self-awareness without object. Sorry if any of these questions are addressed elsewhere. Don't apologize. It's okay. If anyone knows where I can find Dharma's previous answers, let me know. So Donald, regarding early comments about the TMY lineage, so you are using multiple nomenclature. But then what did Satchidananda call TMY? And what did Lungtang Tempe Nima call TMY? They called Mahasiddhas Mahasiddhas. They both called Mahasiddhas Mahasiddhas. In Tibetan, it's a Rigzin. Rigzin is a Mahasiddha in Tibetan. In Sanskrit, it's Mahasiddha. And they all said that these masters were the great masters of enlightenment, represented the greatest fruit in the physical form of a Nirmanakaya Bindu or Jivatma Shakti. And so they talked about it like this. And both were very strongly oriented towards non-sectarianism. Both also very strongly oriented towards taking out the social, religious culture of India and Tibet and leaving the training, which would reveal pure human potential. Over and over again, it was stressed: human potential, human potential. So they were talking Mahasiddha tradition right from the very beginning. They were all talking about it. And that was the sum and substance of my conversations with them. It was never about why are Shaivists the greatest? Why are Bumpos or Dzogchenpas the greatest? It was never that. It was always, what is it unique about these Mahasiddhas who started in these different traditions, and what is unique about them, within their own tradition, that they made so high a realization, and what's the same about them across all the different traditions, right? So that was our conversation there. What did you say about this? You're using a multiple nomenclature. Yeah, sometimes I'll use words like I'll say Dharmakaya, I'll say Dharmakaya or Bunku or Shiva Bindu or Shivakaya or natural state, or then I'll use another one, Nirmanakaya, Jivatma Shakti, Nara Bindu, many of this same from Tibetan and from Sanskrit to describe the same thing. So no matter what you trained in, you're tuning into what I'm talking about at that time. But in Trikamasiddha Yoga, as I prefer to teach it, I want it in English. And then I went to instructors and acharyas who were trained by me to go out into their native language and translate it using words, if there are single words that are perfectly replaceable for the English I chose, or phrases. We had this conversation before on this many times that when I taught in Brazil, we often had to come up with entire phrases to cover different single terms because there weren't single terms that would grab it strongly enough and accurately reflect it. So we had to get whole phrases. Okay, good. If there's time, can you reiterate the view on our heart waves? Not sure what's being referred to there. Do you mean the science that every time our heart beats, as I understand it, every thought, whether contracted as a realm thing and expanding degree, there sends out a heart wave? Yeah, okay. So our heart beats, and every beat sends out electromagnetic pulsation. And if you don't understand physics, I'll explain this to you right now, real simple. It goes out forever and it never stops. So right here in this room, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. When my heart beats, my heart wave electromagnetic impulse hits every other heart in this room. When their heart beats, their heart wave hits my heart. Now, the information, which a heart wave is, energy is information, another way of understanding it. That information is incorporated into our hearts. It's like when you go into a bad feeling situation, and you're like, oh, I got a bad feeling about this. Your heart is telling you. That's why you have the wisdom organ. Your heart is telling you, hey, wake up. Put your brain to sleep and wake up your heart. Listen to me, and tell your heart to tell the brain what to do, which is how it should really happen. This is a dangerous place. There's bad vibes going on here, right? So the heart waves are very important. That this is also how prayer works. You pray from the heart, and then that blessing power goes out. And it's a cumulative effect. So we all do literally have an effect. We all do literally touch each other through the heart, which is so beautiful. So you can't have the luxury of a negative feeling, negative thought, because it goes out and touches others. So you want only the good stuff for yourself because you only want it good for everybody, right? Okay. Continuing forever and yet dissipating. Is that correct? Yes. Is it then effective, for example, to invoke Lord Ganesha to protect all beings against any of one's own impure heart waves, like moments of lust, anger, ignorance? You can always ask and say, please protect people from my badness. That doesn't hurt, but it won't get you off the hook. You still got to transform yourself. I've been imagining that he protects all beings in an orb of red light from any of my impure heart waves throughout the day. That's good, but put even more energy into just generating love and compassion, and it'll all be good. I think we touched that one already, so I think I'm going to let that one go just so I can get on to other people's questions, okay? We'll get more when you get here, Jens, okay? I'm studying Trika Shaivism theory under a Kashmiri Pundit. Wow, that's amazing. We didn't know they existed anymore. And practicing Vajrayana Buddhism under the instruction of 2 Vajrayana masters. That's interesting. Continued where? Shaivism and Vajrayana often soul. The origin of what? Bikram, write that in real quick. What is it you think that is contradictory between the origin of what? Between Shaivism and Vajrayana and soul. Is it a good idea or is it harmful to move with both lineages together at the same time? Okay. You really have to understand both very deeply in their view and their origin, and understand how politics affected both of them to really know how to work with them together. Vajrayana, in its oldest forms, came straight out of Shaivism. So it's not a lot different. The only thing they were trying to do, the Vajrayanas were trying to solve the problem of theism and get rid of it so they could make it more Buddhist. And the Shaivists themselves were trying to solve the problem of theism a little bit and make their stuff more Buddhist as well, actually, in the early centuries as well. So that's why when you get down to it, you start really reading the definitions of what Shiva is. You're kind of like, isn't that the essential nature of the Dharmakaya? It's very hard to find any difference, practical difference between the two. Yet, because of the languaging, I believe that there is still a very strong experience of some great outer other power outside oneself. That subtle stain, I think, still exists in the way Shaivism is taught. Okay. I think Mahasiddhas of Shaivism went way beyond that, but they didn't become the ones who write the text, the big text, like Abhinavagupta and others. So I think there's a way to do both, Bikram, and I think it can be worked, but you have to be really clear about what you're doing. And yes, there'll be a problem with the theism in the end. There'll be a problem with the eternalism, these problems of theism, eternalism, they become a problem. So if you're trying to hybridize those two systems, okay? Otherwise, they both can inform each other very well. I mean to say that they often debate which one is original. Oh, that's not even a question. Shaivism is absolutely, without a question, historically original, the first. And then Vajrayana, as I said in this lecture itself, took 49% of the early Shaivist texts, plagiarized it directly, created their first set of texts. Shortly afterwards, Vajrayana then went deep into the yogini teachings, which Kaula Tantra preserved, and they loved that yogini stuff. So they became pretty much Shaktas at that point, and then set down 100 years of changing the yogini tantras and yogini practices, dakini practices into Buddhist versions. So there's no question that Shaivism was first. And there's no question that the Buddhists orchestrated many, many types of myths to try to convince people that Buddhism was first and that Shiva was a disciple of the last world age Buddha. And that's why Shaivism's kind of okay, as long as you're a Buddhist, right? And they can use the Shaiva texts, but Shaivists now and the teachers now have lost it. This is what the Buddhists would say that, and back then, in like when they were first developing tantric Buddhism in the 600s, 700s, 800s. Oh yeah, Shaivists have lost it. They forgot they were Buddhists. That would be kind of interesting to forget. I don't know how you would forget that if you were a Buddhist. Pretty much can't happen. Like they say the Bumpos. Bumpos were Buddhists from Central Asia, but they forgot the Buddha. So they started using the name of a different teacher, Tumpa Shenra. You don't forget. If the lineage root master of your Buddha, some of you are going to remember Jesus is the head of Christianity forever. So that's really dumb if you think about it. So Shaivism was first, no question. Then there developed many Buddhist tantric texts on how to infiltrate Shaiva kulas to get to secret transmissions, because the Buddhists in the beginning were smart enough, the tantric Buddhists, to know that it was dead. Even though they stole the practice in the text, it was dead unless you got the transmission, the live transmission. So they were as Buddhists thinking they were here, would infiltrate Shaivist groups which they thought were here to get the transmission. Doesn't make any sense, right? So there was much more of an equality back then, seen as an equality. It was just like stealing from each other. But definitely Shaivism was the first. And then I believe that by the time of Abhinavagupta, around 950 to 1050, roughly, somewhere in that neighborhood, there was a lot of going back and forth between Shaivism, Buddhism, Shaivism, Dzogchen, Shaivism, Taoism, and that really helped Shaivism develop. Even like 50 years before Abhinavagupta, during his time, and the next 200 years after, that really helped Shaivism develop. And then Shaivism got slammed to the floor with Muslim invasion and off to the mountains, and it became the Mahasiddha tradition given by oral teachings, which I inherited. That's what I have now. But there was such a confusion about the mixture of Tantric Buddhism, Shaivism, and Taoism that when the Gelug school of Tibetan Buddhism, the last school of the four schools that Dalai Lama belongs to, when that school was formed, I can't remember the years when it was formed, 1400 maybe, 1200, 1400, something like that. When that was formed, it was the last one of the four schools. They had a massive debate with Nyingmas, one of the old original school of Tibetan Buddhism. They had a massive debate about Dzogchen, saying Dzogchen is not Buddhism, because Dzogchen's part of the Vajrayana system of Nyingmas, right? So it's the ninth vehicle, and ninth yana, the ninth vehicle. After everything else is done and you get all through Tantra and you're an amazing Tantric master with like almost a light body already, then you get Dzogchen training. As I said earlier in this training, in this talk, Dzogchen should be left for last, I think, for a good reason. But the Gelugs were saying it's not Buddhism, so you got to take it out. And they had wars about this, literally wars with cannons and cavalry blowing each other's up, temples up. You know, if you think Buddhism was this religion of peace all the time, not in Tibet. They had some serious wars with each other. And here's the interesting thing. Dzogchen isn't Buddhism. It isn't. It's its own system. And it came from Bun a long time ago. And there's a few Buddhists that are strong enough to say that. and not be afraid to lose their Buddha card. One of them was Namkha Norbu. You see, the Buddhists have a way of refabricating history, creating a hagiography so that they can make a new history. People will read it and go, oh. So what they'll do is say, the Buddha, the Tantra we practice that we stole from the Shaivas, they won't say that, but the Tantra that we practice is Buddhist, and it came from the Buddha. But it was from the Buddha taught in his late body and revealed to the masters of Buddhism at the time in Hinayana. It was another turning of the wheel of Buddhism. Now you could say, sure, that could have happened. There's also people that say Buddha taught it to students secretly. The historical Buddha, Shakyamuni, not only taught Theravada, he taught Tantra on the side, but he didn't share the text publicly. Only certain students who could deal with it. But then you see for how long? Let's see, 600, 1100. For 1100 years then, you're telling us that for 1100 years, no Buddhist Tantra was taught. We never had a sign of it. I don't buy it for a second. So the historical Buddha never taught Tantra. That's crazy. There was no Tantric yoga back then that he had access to. And he, did he appear as a vision? Well, that's all just to make you feel confident in the teachings that you got. If you're a Buddhist and you realize you got them from Shaivism and then they were Buddhicized, for a lot of people who are Buddhist, that will diminish their confidence in the teachings and the practices, which is stupid and not really good, because you shouldn't. If you're Buddhist and you're practicing Tibetan Buddhism, Vajrayana, it's powerful. You're going to get a rainbow light body. It's no problem. Specifically because it's tantric yoga, and it has the same root as the Shaivism. It's not any better or worse in this sense, in that way at all. You don't have to believe in a mythological turning of the wheel by a Buddha that came out of the sky or from a previous time and it was hidden the whole way. All that is rewriting history to make you guys feel like you're more superior if you're Buddhists. But feelings of superiority can be good for your confidence in your tradition, but they're not necessarily accurate or necessary. So I would let them go. Just accept what you got and say, this is great. It works. That's all you need to know about that. So, yeah. Is that up above? Betty? I have another question. Okay. So it's interesting. Let me tell you another quick thing about this Buddhist Shaivist thing. First of all, I've seen Tibetan Buddhist texts that talk about Ganesha and how great he is. Like I've seen the Tibetan Buddhist texts that talk, the Hatha Yoga text. The first texts in Hatha Yoga were Tibetan Buddhist or Indian Buddhist, Indian Tantric Buddhist. Then they went to Tibet, got translated. I've seen them. And they talk about all the great Shaiva, great practitioners that are Shaivist. And I've seen the text talking about Ganesha, lauding his incredible qualities. The same thing with Kali. And you're like, wait a minute. At one time, Tibetan Buddhists did not have a real problem, or Tantric Indian Buddhists did not have a real problem with Shaivist deities and so on. But later it became more of a problem, political problem. And you'll see there's a myth in Nepal which got turned into teachings and practices. And you'll see statues like this now, where Padmasambhava went to Nepal and crushed all the demons. He was famous for this. The demons who were against Buddhism. One of them was Ganesha, that horrible Shaiva deity, Ganesha. And he crushed them. So they have a statue of Padmasambhava standing on Ganesha. And, like, and he crushed him, It's really ridiculous, being that their own texts first laud him as a wonderful God, fully enlightened, commander of all the gods and all the beings. Earlier texts say that, right? So that changed somehow. Padmasambhava himself is another one who was the recipient of tons of doctoring and changing. He wasn't even popular until 250 years after his death, or his rainbow body, however you see it. Then they turned him into an icon. Then they turned him into the second Buddha. Then they said he knew all this Dzogchen and stuff, where actually you can't find a lot of literal proof that he learned it or that he taught Dzogchen. So it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. A lot of this is done just to bring up our faith. I'd stay out of all that kind of stuff. Just stay out of it. Don't worry about it. Receive the teachings you get from your teacher. Don't worry about origins. Don't worry about getting pure tradition. If your teachers have realization, they give you the practices, that's the transmission. Follow it, you'll get it. That's the key. Okay. Question concerning ojas and ejaculation. When I ejaculated, I practice 2 hour per day yoga. When I ejaculated, I lose no energy. That means that I lose 0 ojas because it is transmuted. Okay. There are kinds of energy that you feel as gross physical stamina, and there are kinds of energy that you don't. I knew a guy who could maintain erection and ejaculate 4 times in a row, 4 times in a night, without ever going soft, losing his erection. And no matter how much he practiced like that in his sexual life with his wife, his girlfriend at the time, but his wife later, the guy was the most robust human being energetically I've ever seen, one of the strongest human beings pound for pound I've ever met. And we were on sports teams together, fraternity together, and I knew him really well. We lived together. I just could not believe the energy of this guy. We should all be so blessed, as they say in Ayurveda, with every dhatu being sar, level +3, the top level. So there are some people who have this kind of energy and can waste it. If you have so much energy, you can throw it out. My question is, what would this guy have done if he went to the Dharma? Oh my God. If you use that energy in Kundalini Hatha Yoga, he probably would have had realization of the practice in 1 to 3 months. Then taking a day to yoga, he'd probably have realization in 3 to 6 months. Then go to direct realization in Tantra, have realization in like a week. Honestly, I think that's what he would have had. Amazing. But he didn't. He didn't have the Dharma bug, so that's the way it goes. Other people can have really low energy, really poor health, ejaculate once, and it takes them like a month to recover. But there's also another kind of energy we're talking about. And the central channel of a man goes out through the penis to the head of the penis, which means the mind can flow out through that channel. So the danger is when the mind flows through with the ejaculation. That's the biggest danger. Secondary, there is a kind of liminal transitional phase between the physical and the purely open, empty spiritual, where conservation is important. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but in a second. But right now, it's important to know it's subtle. The mind flowing out with the ejaculation, man, it can be like, let's say the event lasts 3 seconds or 5 seconds, right? All it takes is a millisecond for your mind to identify with the pleasure flowing out. Oh, it's amazing. Oh, you're amazing. Gone. Like way less than it took me time to say that. Just like the mind going, poof, 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 gone. The energy goes. So that's what they're talking about the energy flowing out with ejaculation. But for that, you need control of the mind. Oh, for that, you need control of the energy, right? So it doesn't disturb the mind and get it to react. Oh, and for that, you need meditation. Oh, so the whole path comes together, you see? Now, my friend who has all that energy, even though he's ejaculating like crazy, he's losing that liminal energy though as well, the spiritual type of energy, and he'd have to build that up again. Luckily, with all that life force, though, he could build it up very quickly if he didn't diminish it. Whereas the example of the person with very little energy, that will take a long time to build up that force again and easy to lose. Like vadas versus kappas. It's a very simple, equation in a sense. Or how hard was your life? Did you grow up in Chinese prison as a Tibetan, not eating well and blah, blah, it could be, and getting tortured. So it can be that as well. So this is very important to understand these differences. Now, Abhinavagupta says, because he must, I get this question a lot, and I thought, they probably never got this in the old days. Then I read a text by him and I was like, oh, he must have got his question a lot too. He decided to clear it up in a text so he could go read the book. They asked him about this and he said, if you want full realization, full spiritual realization without cities, just to know your nature, the awakening of your nature, and you don't want to have any great attainment. You don't want to live too long. You want to die a normal death. And then in the after death states and later higher stages, you can achieve higher stages outside the body, then you can ejaculate. But if you're going to perform any kind of yogic alchemy and you want any kind of siddhi attainment, like to be in this world as a mahasiddha, then you shouldn't. So he made it real simple. Okay. All right. We're getting the thank yous coming. Is that it? Zane. Wow. How you doing, Zane? All right. Yeah. Good to see you there. Also with Lama Glenn. All right. Everybody, that was a wonderful session. All the best, everybody. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May all beings be realized. Sarva Mangalam. Till next time. What should I hit? Your stream will stop. You'll no longer end or not yet.